Hello and welcome to Politics Today, reaching you live from our global headquarters here in the nation's commercial net center, Lagos. I'm Jeffrey Uzama, bringing you up to speed with the big happenings in the polity and in politics. A lot has played out today, especially on the floor of the National Assembly. We're going to get to that in just a moment. And broadly speaking, we'll be looking at the state of the nation, especially things that has to do with politics. You've already seen some of the highlights already. A senator will be joining me on the program, who is former governor and a vocal leader of the nation in that sense. But let's tell you first what has been playing out in Delta State, the hometown of late elder statesman and pan-Niger Delta leader, Pa Edwin Clark, in Gabodi, Delta State. Earlier today witnessed a large turnout of people for the funeral service of the elder statesman. Family members, political figures, including former President Goodluck Jonathan, his wife Patience, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator George Akume, the Governor of Delta State, Sheriff Oborowere, traditional rulers, and community leaders gathered to bid the elder statesman farewell. It was a solemn atmosphere where guests paid tribute, eulogizing him. He was a nationalist known for his unwavering voice in defense of the Niger Delta and Nigeria's unity.
Those who are coming are about stealing the road. He who has ear.
That's the preacher giving his homily at that funeral. May God give the family of Pa Clark and everyone who is alive the fortitude to bear this very loss. I've had the privilege of having him on a conversation on this show where you clearly know he's very, very strong on his position as a nationalist, as a leader, especially as a leader in the Niger Delta region. So our thoughts and our prayers are with the families. And away from that, some 7 bills in total suffered setback today. One of those bills is the bill to establish office of the Registrar General of Political Parties and Related Matters. It was actually a bill to see how they can further unbundle INEC. But that bill did not scale second reading. But the bigger one of all the 7 bills is the bill to provide for the principle of rotation of the offices of the President and Vice President of the Federation among the 6 geopolitical zones. That has also suffered major setback. It didn't scale second reading. And so perhaps the lawmakers are saying there's no to rotational presidency. But we understand that the bill were put together and put to a voice vote. However, this is a constitutional amendment. I must add that to it, in a way to amend the Constitution. So all of these bills is an amendment to the Constitution. But they tried to rectify a few things. We understand that they may relay it or continue with it tomorrow, but that is as far as we know. For now, that bill has suffered a setback. No such thing as rotational president, at least officially. There's this gentleman agreement between all sides. Okay. Let's talk about what has been playing out in terms of defections. Today, about 3 senators from Kebbi State. Let me see. Senator Adamu Aliero, representing Kebbi Central, Yahya Abdullahi from Kebbi North, and Garba Maidoki from Kebbi South. All of them, members of the PDP, have now officially resigned from the PDP and have joined the APC. So that presentation was done today at the chambers of the floor of the Senate today, the red chambers. The national chairman of the APC, Abdullahi Ganduje, the governor of the state, Nessa Idris, was also there. Minister was also there to witness this occasion. So you can see APC is swelling by the day in terms of numbers as we speak. So let's give you some figures. APC is about 68, has about 68 senators. PDP has reduced drastically to 30 senators. Labour Party 5, NNPP 1, SDP 2, ABGA 1. So this simply means that with just 5 additional votes from any of the opposition parties, the APC can pass anything requested by them or the president in that sense because of the 2/3 majority factor. So whether more members will join to give that 72 votes, or 73 in that sense, which is 2/3 majority. So they're just like 5 senators away from having two-thirds majority. And that's a big deal for any political party. But what is really going on? Well, the politicians will be able to tell us. But the PDP in Kebbi State is not happy. They have reacted to this. They are saying that this doesn't change anything. They remain resilient. And they spoke at a press conference today. They actually addressed their disappointment. They consider this a betrayal of the senators on the PDP in that sense. All right, so that's exactly how things played out at the National Assembly today, especially in the red chambers, the upper legislative chambers. But we'll bring you a political roundup stories. When we come back, I'll be joined by a former Labour leader, former national chairman of the APC, and former governor of Edo State and senator representing Edo North Senatorial District, Senator Adams Oshomole, on the program. Just a moment.
The Senate has asked the federal government to ensure the inclusion of one representative per state, local government council and area councils of the Federal Capital Territory in FAC deliberations. It also declared that a resolution be communicated to the Honorable Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, who serves as FAC chairman, for immediate action. These resolutions is a move aimed at strengthening constitutional compliance and financial transparency at the grassroots level, following a motion sponsored by Senator Barao Jibrin of Kano North Senatorial District, who underscored that local government councils, as constitutionally recognized third-tier governments under Section 7, subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, are entitled to a direct share from the Federation account. Justice Binta Nyako of the Federal High Court Abuja has fixed June 27, 2025 for judgment in the suit filed by suspended Senator Natasha Akpotu-Uduaghan, challenging her suspension by the Senate. The suit came up for hearing of all pending motions, including those relating to alleged contempt of court and substantive suit. Tuesday's proceedings was marked by arguments over the proper processes to be adopted. Counsel to the third defendant, Kehinde Ogunwuniju, had earlier applied for all parties to formally withdraw processes no longer relied upon in order to avoid confusion before adoption. After listening to all the parties, Justice Nyako stated that she would first consider the contempt issues and preliminary objections. The chairman of the area councils in the Federal Capital Territory have appealed to public primary school teachers in the FCT to call off their ongoing strike over the 70,000 naira minimum wage. Addressing journalists in Abuja, the secretary of the association, Mr. John Gabaya, who was the chairman of the Buhari Area Council, says the councils have commenced payment of the new minimum wage. Mr. Gabaya encouraged the teachers to return to the negotiating table to address the remaining concerns.
We are here this morning to call on attention, or to call the unions of NUT, that is Nigeria Union of Teachers, and the NOLGI of our area councils, to resume or the call of the strike, so as for us to enable to sit down in order to dialogue.
And the national coordinator of the Obedient Movement has called for thorough examination and evaluation of key institutions in Nigeria for democracy to thrive. He was speaking at a meeting of the Obedient Movement in Enugu State, where he condemned the perceived political influence of the judiciary, legislative arms of government, and even the media.
There is a growing perception that those bodies are increasingly influenced by political interest. For a democracy to thrive, these institutions must operate without fear or favor, providing essential checks on power.
The delineation exercise carried out by INEC has continued to generate tension in Delta State, with various groups and stakeholders expressing opposing views. Amongst the latest to weigh in is the Ijaw leader and APC stakeholder, Johnny Michael, who has urged the electoral body to focus on completing the exercise as directed by the Supreme Court. He warned against any attempt to manipulate INEC, describing the ongoing process as a job well executed. He emphasized that maintaining peace and order must remain a priority, urging authorities to ensure all issues are properly addressed to prevent further unrest.
People are trying to cause unrest, insecurity in the Warri Delta states and East Environ, so that INEC will be threatened, will be intimidated.
All right, welcome back. Let's get straight to the conversation on the state of our nation. Being joined in the program from our Abuja studios, the senator representing Edo North, former governor of Edo State, and former APC national chairman, as well as the former Labour leader, Senator Adams Oshomole. Comrade Senator, thank you so much, sir, for coming on the program, and good to see you.
Geoffrey, thanks so much for having me.
All right. Just before we came on air, we saw that Pa Clark earlier today was being put to rest, and I understand the Senate President actually went there for that event. I don't know whether you have any thoughts on the memory of the elder statesman in that sense before we get to the conversation, sir.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. We had the privilege to pay tributes to our departed elder statesman, a truly elder statesman in every sense of that word, now late Edwin Clark, for what he represented in Nigeria and in particular in Niger Delta. One of the things I said is that what people seem to say every day is that, oh, you should speak truth to power. And I said my recollection of Pa Clark was that he spoke truth even in power, not just to power, because he was in government at both federal and state level, and his voice was always loud and clear. His commitment to the unity of Nigeria was not in doubt, but he was clear that that unity, the path to that unity and peace required that we do justice to the minorities. And he believed that the degradation of the Niger Delta sub-region is not an act of God, it's a result of government economic policy, and it's really right that government pays attention to ensure that there are remedial measures and the Niger Delta region attract special development. He was unyielding. When he was convinced, he stood by his fights. And you can also see that in the later years, he was not just he wasn't a politician really, because he denounced as many PDP as he could, just like he would denounce as any APC governor that did things that he wasn't sure were right. So we truly lost a voice in the sub-region. And in Nigeria, this is not just in the manner of normal speaking, they'll speak ill of the dead. Up to the last moment, Pa Clark was never tired. He raised his voice, and you can't ignore it. So may his soul rest in perfect peace.
Amen. I had the blessing and the privilege to interview him. I totally agree with you, comrade, that he kept at it even until the last moment. And coincidental, and fortunately, we still have voices like yours that are quite strong and quite vocal, which is why I know that you're going to give responses as straight as possible. But, and again, one of the reasons I like to talk to you, sir, is the fact that you have what I consider a panoramic view of state affairs. You've been a governor. That puts you in the executive position, and now you're a senator. So you oversight them. And then you were a labor leader. You were literally in the trenches in that sense. So you have the views as much as possible. But I watched you the other day when those PDP senators are defected to, I think, led by the Speaker of the Edo State House of Assembly. And apparently, I don't think you were happy when you hear people say, it was Adams Oshomole that said, as soon as you join the APC, your sins are forgiven. And I listened to what you said and the remarks you made in reference to the context where you said what you said then. So let's give total closure to Nigerians who may not have heard exactly the context of what you said, so that perhaps people that are referencing it, not knowing the context, will be able to understand why you said what you said, sir.
Geoffrey, God bless you so much. You know, in anything I do, I take it seriously, but sometimes I realize that you have to have some humor, you know, to warm up an environment. I was national chairman, and President Buhari came to Benin to flag off presidential campaign. And as usual, several PDP stalwarts came to join the APC. And one of them is called Ilwobi. I come from Edo State, I come from Edo North. The language of Edo Central and Edo North is more or less the same, even in Edo South. Ilwobi means I don't do bad. And I just jokingly said to the young boys, okay, now you have been in a party of bad people, people deceiving people. Now I'm happy now that you have left them to come and join APC. Then you will live up to your father's name, which is Ilwobi. You will no longer do bad, because obey means evil in our language. I will not do it means I will not do evil. So now you will live as a progressive. This has nothing to do whatsoever with corruption. This guy was not even holding, he was not a public officer, whether at the state level or federal level. He wasn't known to me even as a contractor. So how people could whip this, and why it hurt me, I had to speak about it that day, is that those journalists who paraded, they know better. Because I challenged them to play that tape. They have the tape. Because this was an event covered live. It was not a secret outing. So let them play it back and say, fact check. This is what Oshomole said. But they just choose to continue to use it. I was particularly shocked that an otherwise a very senior editor could ask someone like the immediate past governor of Delta State, Okowa, did you, in a very mischievous manner, with due respect to him, somebody said I should ask you, did you get permission from Oshomole that your sin will now be forgiven before you now decide to decamp to APC? And I think the guy didn't quite understand that the question was informed by just mischief. And the man tried to answer. I said, no, he has not even met me for a long time, which is true. And he worked with Obaseki against me, which is also true. But when we met on stage that day, I said, my brother, having been a governor and I was a governor, we are friends. So, but we'll be put aside by different party divides. So now we are back together, hopefully for never to part no more. So how can anybody do that? And I believe that this is just the art of mischief makers. They prefer to take the negative side. Now, how can you ask, what is my status? Like you rightly said, I am now in the legislature. Is the legislature responsible for prosecution of anybody involved in the wrongdoing? And what will be the wrongdoing? And so it was just mischief. So I have to remind those people that one of them, who's the man who made that statement, he himself was invited by EFCC after he had abused Jonathan as much as he could. Jonathan brought him on board to become his spokesman, and he became his spokesman, in my view, shamelessly. You don't condemn Padediam, I end up consuming it all over. And thereafter, EFCC arrested him too. And I said, was I the one who granted him bail to leave PDP now to become where he is? Because I noticed that consistently, even on Labor Day, he was saying, some Labor leaders who have been involved in picketing, they fought for workers. He couldn't even credit me with that fact that I led protest. This is the guy who wrote Oshomole, the people's president, when I was president of the NSC. Right. Rather than credit me with that, they say, when they leave NSC, they now go and become governors, then they become senators. I say, if you are angry because you wanted to be deputy governor and you lost the election in Ogun State, is that the reason you'll be so paranoid that every opportunity you want to abuse me? You want to abuse me, don't hide under the TV, we meet on the street, and we fight it out.
The thing is, I know that you taking a swipe at anybody who takes a swipe at you, you're not in short supply. The idea was just for you to provide clarity and give closure at the end.
I'm very grateful for the opportunity. I think it's clear enough.
I didn't want to drag anybody in so that we stay within the context of it. But let's move on now to what played out today.
It's better that way.
Yeah, let's move on to what played out today. 3 more senators have now joined the APC. 68 APC lawmakers now in the National Assembly. That means with 5 more joining you, you have a stronghold of a 2/3 majority. That simply means, for Nigerians who may not understand, if you want anything passed, APC alone can make it happen. Is that dangerous for democracy from where? Because now you're the beneficiary of this. So it's uhuru, is exciting, but speak as a statesman. Is this healthy for democracy?
I will always do. If you watch my contributions on the floor of the Senate, the first party is Federal Republic of Nigeria. Because I have argued, and no apologies, that the sum total of all the political parties in Nigeria, whether in or out of government, they are not equivalent to Nigeria. Nigeria is much more than the sum total of all the parties. I stand by that. And if I see a conflict between party interests and national interests, I have no difficulty resolving it in favor of the Nigeria interests. And that informs the position I take on issues. If I'm wrong, it's my head, not my heart. Now, with regards to the defection, I was particularly excited because those who join us today include co-founders of APC. Governor Alero was never in PDP. He was one of those governors who ran an election on AMPP platform in 1999, before the then president did everything to try to undermine the ANPP, take their chairman, the chairman of the ANPP, made him a special advisor, compare some of the governors to the camp, and ANPP, who had about, I think they had up to 10 states at the beginning, but in the end, they had few. Of course, you also know the issue of Ashidu, who was in Bauchi, and how he left and the state went to PDP. He was initially in ANPP. So a man like a co-founding governor, I'm a co-founding governor of ANPP. Now, I was national chairman, and I know the contribution of Senator Yahaya, not only to APC, to the governance of Nigeria. As an APC senator, they had internal political disagreements in Kebbi State, and unfortunately he decided to leave, but he left the party, but he didn't leave his people. And the people returned him back on PDP platform. Now, Alero was always, he's not just a co-founder, he had run an election over and over, and he has always been winning. And so it was again this little misunderstanding that made him leave. So when a founder of a house returned to the house, those of us who have been there, who feel miss their absence, I mean, it's a thing of joy. Now, whether this is a danger to democracy, no, I don't think so, sir. Let me remind you that even in the newsroom, I'm not an editor, but I have many friends who are editors. There are some debates as to what should be the editorial policy today. So the fact that we now have so many APC members, overwhelmingly, doesn't mean there will be no debate. If you have been following even debate in the House, you will find that sometimes you can't even distinguish who is PDP, who is APC, in terms of the position that some people take. You know, so I think that if you look at the US, they celebrate when a president has control of the Congress as well as the Senate. Every government wants that because democracy, yes, I can say, and I've argued that in a sense you can say democracy is not only a means to an end, that it's an end in itself, in the sense that the right to contribute, the freedom to express yourself, because evil dictators can build roads, evil dictators can build hospitals. What dictators cannot accommodate, they don't have the appetite to listen to contestation, to divergent views. And what makes this one more interesting is that, you know, when matured people who have made their mark, you can't say they are hungry. They decide, look, I'm returning to the house I helped to co-found because the reason that forced me out of the house are no longer valid. I want to be part of the movement. My progressive credentials remains the same, and I am returning to the house I co-found. I think it's just something to be celebrated. I can assure Nigerians that does not mean that if you watch today's proceedings, for example, where today is not exactly a typical day where we have a contestation because we didn't have much controversial matters. I'm sure, as I'm sure you always do, you will find your reporter will observe in Abuja that nothing will change in terms of how we look at issues. The diversity of Nigeria is better service at the National Assembly because every local government is represented, every interest is represented, every sentiment is represented. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Senator, some would say because you're the beneficiary, so this looks nice and all easier going. So at the end of the day, because it boils, whatever contributions are made from all sides in terms of the lawmakers, when it comes to the voting, people always like to vote along political lines, which is why I asked that question. We've had that controversial vote of state of emergency. We've had all kinds of votes that generated a lot of all this. But you have been a governor, and I'm wondering, there are states, let's say, for instance, Lagos. Lagos is quote-unquote default APC state. It's difficult to beat them in their own game in that sense. So there are places like Delta, there are places like Akwa Ibom, who are looked at as a PDP state. So one is wondering whether there is some truth, maybe I'm careful, let me be careful with my words, some sense in people who say, people who have naturally a home run in securing a re-election, like Governor Borowore or Governor Enowu, we hear may defect, he hasn't confirmed, but he's been saying things, deciding now to join the APC. Is this a question of implicit coercion, or what exactly is going on? I'm speaking to you as somebody who has been governor and who knows that this is a possibility that they can win re-election without joining the APC.
Absolutely. I ran my election as opposition 2 times. In 2007, the PDP rigged me out. I went to court, I fought them. Thanks to courageous judiciary, I won. And in 2012, I went for a rerun, and I won 18 over 80. I scored the highest vote ever. Not only winning all the local government, I won 74 or 75.6% of the total vote cast. All the other parties put together got the remaining votes. So I understand the meaning of opposition. I think any governor, what he sought, will not move because he's afraid of what or the other. But the point is, if you are in a place, even the Nigeria Constitution recognizes, if your party is in tatters, the time you should have spent on state matters, you are spending the time to be rebuilding an umbrella that is torn irretrievably. You rather, like Governor rightly put it, he said, if you have an air on the ground, you want to board, and the pilot say, wait a minute, there are crises in the engine and the left or the right, do you still want to enter because sentimentally Akwa Ibom is, Ibom Air is owned by Akwa Ibom state government? You can as well go and board another flight if you want to fly to safety. That for me was loaded, and you can't afford that logic. You can't afford that logic. But let me remind you that those who started defection, the man, the most popular one in the history of Nigeria, is His Excellency Atiku Abubakar. When as a sitting president, as a sitting vice president of Nigeria, he decamped from PDP to ACN, which is now part of APC. Was he coerced by ACN that was then led by Bola Tinubu, Asiwaju Tinubu, not a non-state president, as of that time? So that will help to settle all these arguments about whether there's cohesion or no cohesion. Was Atiku Abubakar coerced by Tinubu to come and join us in ACN? I was governor in ACN then, so I am familiar with the issue. Did ACN coerce Atiku Abubakar to leave Obasanjo and PDP to come and pick our ticket and run as president? Now, did we force him, coerce him to return, to leave our party and return back to PDP to go and contest with Abili Jonathan? And when he lost, did we coerce him not being in the state with Jonathan as president? Did we have the instrument to coerce him to come back to APC to contest the primaries against General Buhari, who later became the president, and now former President Buhari? So where is cohesion? I think the best person who can write a book on why people decamp should be the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. It would be nice to ask him, as a city vice president, you left your party, you were coerced by a non-state actor. So I don't want to discuss all the other one, because when you discuss this in the media, I often ask. We have my very dear friend, Peter Obi, who governed Anambra for 8 years. When he was there, he was already wearing Ojuku's symbol. When he left, he joined PDP. When he lost PDP, he went back to Labour. And now, I don't know what he's doing in Labour, and that I hear about obedient movement now. I don't know whether that is good.
All right, distinguished.
So all of these people who talk now about decamping, check their history. Is President Bola Tinubu and few of us who can say we have never decamped.
Okay, I'll take that. I'll give that to the president. But you've changed parties, not necessarily that you defected because of mergers and all of that, in that sense.
That's right.
But at least you've changed parties, right. Which is why we're calling...
You are correct. We are marched.
As far as a lot of people are concerned, politicians don't have ideologies in Nigeria, so it's interest. So if we settle down, maybe we'll not quarrel with anybody as to where they want to go to, because we understand what ideological political parties mean, and this looks like just a political platform. But distinguished, I'm going to bring one question, then we'll go on a break, because there are so many things that the president had promised as far as his renewed hope agenda, which people like you, all of you, put together to make sure that he got re-elected in 2023, and 2027 is coming, which is why all this alignment is going. But quick, if you can answer in about 1 minute before we go on that break. A bill just suffered a setback today, not in your chambers, in the lower chambers, where they were attempting to bring in rotational presidency. I know the way politicians calculate, and some calculations have been, it's now the time of the southern president, let's allow the southern president to be for 8 years because Muhammadu Buhari was there for 8 years. So some people are calculating that since this democracy, the South has led the presidency for at least 18 years, while the North has done 10 years. And you can flip the page for vice presidency. So I want to ask you, are we missing an opportunity to put some level of control as to this argument that is only a gentleman argument into our grown norm? Or this is necessary to be thrown out in terms of rotational presidency?
Well, you know, there was a time I argued that if there was a rotation to be made, it should be a rotation between the ruling class and the working class. Let them alternate, so that those who rule can also understand what it means to be ruled, to be presided over. Now, if you write it to the Constitution, North-South, how does it explain your ideological issue that you are saying? Which means we are going to form political parties on the basis of regions. And then thereafter, knowing Nigeria, when you have done that, tomorrow somebody is going to say right to the country that we shall also rotate based on religion. And then by the time you come to definition of religion, we will rotate between Christian, a segment of Christian, whether PFN or Catholic or Protestant, and then Muslim, Inderika or Izala, and then even the pagans, we say, look, we are part of this federation. We too, we need to rotate to paganism because this is our belief, it's our human right. I think that the defeat of that motion, in my view, is appropriate. Nigerians will, it doesn't have to be written. The British people they don't have 1,000-page constitution, and they have a very robust, stable governance. They've had ideological-driven political party, the Labour Party and the Conservative Party. Same can be said for America. What is the volume of American document? But leaders are supposed to have a sense of justice and fairness. If something is really important, it doesn't have to be stated in the law. By human behavior, custom, and tradition, a couple of issues are better resolved that way. That you put something in the Constitution because you have somebody in mind today, when it changes tomorrow, you have a problem. I think that Nigerians, by their vote, will always be trusted to resolve this issue as to how they want it. Now, to try to use the law to use geography as a basis, I do not find much merit in it.
All right, Senator.
I don't think this president, for example, I don't think this president needs. He didn't need rotation to be where he is. He fought his way through, and as you can see, more people are joining him from the northern part of the country, not just from the south, and they are joining because they see some light at the end of the tunnel.
All right, we're going to question.
They believe that with some time and the president can consolidate on his renewed hope agenda.
Okay.
After the initial pains, there will be gain. And everybody wants to be part of that effort. National effort. I think it's good for our national unity. The optics for me are very good.
Senator Shomole, that light is what we'll question when we come after the break. Whether that light is a dim light or is a bright light. It's a different kettle of fish because Nigerians are hungry. We haven't seen the living standard reports of Nigeria. We're expecting the budget office to bring that out. And if the statistics is correct, I'm sure, I don't know what you have to say, but we don't have the facts yet. But every experience we see, Nigerians are really complaining. Things are difficult, things are hard.
We don't go into definition, that's all. Provided we accept to, these are social issues.
We will take a break, Senator. When we come back, we'll talk on the economy as well as security, which you've been vocal about in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. I've been speaking with the former national chairman of the APC, former governor of Delta State, and former Labour leader, and now the senator representing Edo North Senatorial District, Senator Adams Oshomole, joining us from Abuja today. Senator, thank you so much for staying with us. Senator, I had a conversation yesterday.
Thank you, Geoffrey.
Yeah, before I go to, because I have made up my mind that one of the things I'll be doing in having a conversation with the people in authority and referencing it even with the opposition is to the effect that we'll go to that book, that 80-page document of Renewed Hope Agenda, where the president made a couple of promises. Some of those promises, we're seeing them fulfilled. Some we're seeing them far from being fulfilled that are supposed to turn the tide in that sense. But there's a straight question I want to ask you. Given what we have where we found ourselves today, by all ramification, I'm talking economy, the politics, the security, and all of this. If there was an election today, do you think President Bola Tinubu will win that election in a free and fair election?
He will win. Very well. Now, I just give you an example. If you listen, as I'm sure you probably did this morning, among the senators that rejoined the APC, rejoined in the sense that they are co-founders of APC, one of them said that before President Tinubu assumed office, people from his senatorial zone could no longer go to the farm because of the level of insecurity. And he announced with joy, black and white, in a letter he wrote to the Senate president, which was read on the floor, that as he speaks, the people are now able to go to their farms unmolested. And that, for him, was a plus for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He went on to narrate how a certain road that has been done has made life much, much easier for the people of his senatorial area. However, he has more, he expects that the government will do much more. Now that he is in the party, he will take advantage to lobby and ensure that more things are done. So if you sit in Lagos, you may not be able to understand that whereas there are general problems, which as we speak, sometimes we are all guilty of sweeping generalization. We either dismiss everything. If I score 49%, you wouldn't even say fail, you say fail. If we fail, there is F6, F7, F9. If you look at just one point that should interest you, one of the things that a lot of Nigerians were troubled about is an exchange rate regime in which just by the fact that you are connected to the governor of Central Bank, he allocates $20 million to you at 350 naira to the dollar. And then, without much ado, you take it to the next person. You don't have to carry it physically because it's all electronic transfers. You then transfer it to a bureau de change, and you are 100% richer. Now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu could have decided to benefit from that before putting it to an end. But he said from day one, if it is wrong, don't touch it with a pole. He has abolished that. Today, what the president gets in exchange rate is what Oshomole gets. That is what Geoffrey gets if he wants to travel or you want to buy anything that is made in Nigeria. So eliminating that free rate, which was accruing to very few people who are connected with the bank, with the central bank governor or central bank management, and some Nigeria bankers who, without doing proper banking, were just speculating on exchange rate. The more allocation you get, the more money you make, and the more profit you declare. All of that has been eliminated. Jeffrey, it takes courage. And one of the things that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu promised, yeah?
Senator, I'm not disputing.
Number two,
Senator, just a moment, because
wait.
Just, if you can land in 30 seconds, because I have plenty of questions for you. I'm racing against time.
I am sure.
Okay.
But remember that I have a right of reply.
Yes.
And the reply must be longer than the question.
Okay, my question was not that long.
Even in school.
I'm just saying that trickle-down economics, because there's something called J-curve theory. There's also trickle-down economics.
I understand.
Well, okay, let's just say there's something called the economics that trickles down to everybody. All of the macroeconomic dashboard, they seem to be looking fairly better and fairly good in terms of the management at the end of the day. But that is not what Nigerians understand. Because when the kind of shocks the president subjected us to is put in place, there has to be some level of shock absorber, let me use that word, shock absorber in terms of intervention, which has not been as effective as it is, which is why people are complaining. I think literally all of them promised to remove subsidy, whether they want to remove it in phases or literally in that sense. That is where the problem is. As I speak to you, a lot of businesses have closed down. I'm not even talking about the big businesses, small businesses. Families are struggling. And that is their lived-in reality. And that is the question I keep asking. What is going to be the response of the president if this is the pace he's going to keep? Because telling people to keep trusting him is not going to surface.
It's okay. Now, Jeffrey, just for the record.
Yes, sir.
I am not a believer in trickle-down economics. Those are right-wing economic thoughts. I am not a believer of absolute market forces. I think it is misleading to think that you can surrender a nation to the forces of the market. So I do not belong to that school of thought. However, the entry point for the common man is to be able to meet his basic need. there is no question that there are huge challenges. But if you know, if you have a look at the balance sheet that this president inherited, arising from the very reckless use or rather misuse of ways and means, that is the way economists describe a situation in which the bank or the government of the day print back notes in trillions of naira that were not supported by any economic fundamentals. If you know how much was so printed, and this volume of money was chasing limited naira that we earn, that explains today's exchange rate regime, when you now have to reconcile supply with demand. The consequential increase in the cost of living was predictable. If that was not done, Nigeria was on its way to Zimbabwe. So I believe that things have not come to the level that President President Bola Ahmed Tinubu wants it. No. It is work in progress. The surgeon has gone to carry out the surgery. He understands there is a level of pain. There has to be pain. But the good news is that the patient is healing. Maybe it could heal faster, but there can be no question that the patient is healing. And he took the right decision by insisting that the first term, he takes all the difficult decisions prayerfully that as we move on, I don't think any Nigerian who understands the macroeconomic environment that was inherited by this government will expect that in 24 months, it will have fixed all those problems and Nigeria will be back. Truly, this country was badly mismanaged. The economy was badly mismanaged. This is not to blame anyone, but this is to speak to facts. So I think I can say that I think the worst is over. We are going to begin to witness improvement in quality of standard of living. I expect that all the other players of labor who are benefiting from some of the courageous decisions that the president has taken will ensure that, talking about trickle down, for me it's not trickle down, that they pay living wage. Because when you pay workers living wage, the money they earn, the only people who look inward in their consumption pattern are salary earners. So when they are able to pay their rent, room and parlor, they can buy rice, they can buy gari, because they have a higher purchasing power. I think that eventually everybody will experience some relief. But obviously, there is no magic to governance. I was a governor. I inherited certain situation, and it took me time to get my act together to fully have a holistic view of the challenges I was facing and to decide in terms of priorities, what do I do first, at what cost, who get what. All right, Senator. And I decided, okay, yes.
No, just land on your thoughts, sir. Just land on your thought, please. I will allow you to land on your thoughts.
Just to say that I am able to say, I'm not in the executive, I'm in the legislature, but as a Nigerian, I live with my people. I go to my community all the time. I can say that, yes, there is a level of hardship, but things are improving. If you remember that the Naira went to 2,000 Naira to $1, and now it is between 1,005 and 1,006, you will say that some things are improving. The rate of inflation is still high, but obviously it can be better. And with time, I believe it will be better. We still have this security problem, but it is not as bad as it used to be. But obviously, it can be better, and it has to be better.
Senator, distinguished Senator, now you're talking like a leader and a politician at the same time. Things are really bad, Senator. Things are really bad. Our per capita income is less than $1,000. Yes.
No. Again,
just a moment, sir. And just to remind you, sir, this inheritance that we inherited that we almost fell off the cliff was done by the APC government led by Muhammadu Buhari 8 years. So whatever dish we wanted to fall on, if PDP did it to a point, Buhari's government, in your view, from this analysis we always done, almost took it to the cliff. And then you said President Tinubu is bringing it out. But the question I wanted to ask you, and I will not forgive myself if I don't ask you this question, Senator, maybe you can add it to the answers you want to give me, is the issue of insecurity. I know you've been very vocal about doing something drastic about insecurity. 2 days ago, the last 24 hours, we lost 4 soldiers at the fringes of Lake Chad Basin. They attacked our operational forward base. That's how audacious these guys have become. Look at the carnage on the plateau as well as on Benue. At some point, we made some gains, but we're losing ground. And you have raised the concern that ex-generals have to be called to questions to some of these things that happened. I don't know whether you were shut down in the Senate and all of that. But I would like you to give a direction as to what we can do to stop our people being killed carelessly and just like that.
Very well. You know, first is that, you know, what pains me is that, you know, when we discuss security, we are unable to pay sufficient, let's say, respect to the memory of those who have died in the course of trying to keep Nigeria safe. Those 4 soldiers you mentioned. I know several other officers who have died defending Nigeria. You know, and so it would be unfair in a sense to condemn, to suggest as if the army is not doing something. But I think that there is something that the commanders can do much better. They need to provide, because I do engage with soldiers. I mean, I relate with all segments of society, vertically and horizontally. I think that we need to ensure that the defense budget is judiciously implemented. The National Assembly has been quite generous. The president has been extremely generous. He provided, and he keeps giving assurances that he will provide money. But I know as a small manager that throwing money at a problem alone is not enough. Those who have the resources must provide enough ammunition and modern technology to add and improve on the training and retraining and recruit more men and women in uniform to deal with this crisis that we are facing. I believe that has to be done. And it is not for nothing, Geoffrey, that the Senate last week passed a resolution that we're calling for a national conversation, you know, as to what do we do differently against the security people as well as non-security people who have information, who have ideas, as to what we can all do. Because from what I know now, even local people, local chiefs, local community leaders, they all have a role to play. Some are even implicated in some of these security issues. So it's not something that you are going to just, it's a complex issue. However, I am confident that my business and the business of government of the day is not to lament that, what can we do? Something has to be done. And a conversation around it is at the heart of democracy, that nobody should lay claim to monopoly of solution. And so we want to hear from Nigerians. People need to share their experiences, and I believe that the armed forces will hear. Now, the National Security Advisor, unlike before, we have a National Security Advisor who is doing everything he can to have more coordination between the Army, the Air Force, the Navy, etc., etc. And some of the commanders have attested to this, unlike before where they were competing. So again, that represents some progress. And I know that they are able to put a joint team in place to deal with this insecurity in one place or the other. But like I argued not too long ago on the floor of the Senate, I said it will appear to me that as we make progress, pushing this guy out of certain part of the country, they tend to want to move to another place, which is logical. Now, the issue is how do you circle them? You deal with them from the south, you push them from the north, from the west, in the east, and until you completely terminate their existence. This is not something that is going to be overnight, but I am not even in a position to sermonize as to appropriate security. I believe that under the leadership of the National Security Advisor, there is renewed collaboration and cooperation between the various arms. That, for me, is the starting point. All right. But I believe that anybody sent to battlefield should be given enough, because sometimes we hear that people don't have enough ammunition, and when they exhaust what they have,
all right, Senator.
They come after them. Right. This may be exaggerated, it may be true or not true, but I don't believe that we must, at any point, recognize that people have paid supreme price, and we owe them respect.
Senator,
but also we must encourage the leadership of the armed forces to devise more ways and means to ensure that we are all safe.
Senator, we'll not dispute that. Just 1 minute is all I have now. So how much will President keep into his word? He made a promise that he's going to disengage the police from VIP services and securing of our national asset and give that responsibility to NSCDC. It's like we have half of our policemen guarding big men. And it looks like it was more of a campaign talk than in reality. Are you worried about that? Because you're supposed to oversight that as well.
No. I'm not on the police committee.
No, I'm just talking about the National Assembly now. Just, not just you.
Yeah, okay. Very well. But if I ask you, how many people are attached to big men? How many policemen?
I don't know, but I know it's hundreds of thousands. We have about 400,000 policemen, over 100,000 attached to big men. Over 100,000.
Okay, so you have to say, okay. If I ask you to provide the evidence, I'm sure you will have difficulties.
I will send you Adejobi.
However, let me say this. I have said this even in formal and informal conversation. I said, if all of us will pay a little more tax, property tax, and it is channeled to recruit and quadruple the number of men in uniform, both army and police. And the police can guide every street. They are mobile, they are motorized, they are trained, they have all the modern technology. Nobody will need to build a police post in his house. Like what big man told me, he said, what is the fun? As a big man, you ought to be afraid of police, not knowing too much about your personal lifestyle. But when you have a police post in your house, the policemen knows who visit you, they know who you visit, they know how long they stay. So if government want to come after you, the details are already there.
Okay.
On a good day, you don't really want that.
Okay.
So I think that there is no question that we need to, in my opinion, we need to recruit more people.
Okay.
Give them proper training, keep them properly, and deploy them in a manner that you do not need to have a policeman in your vehicle to feel psychologically safe.
Okay, Senator, I must thank you so much. Always a delight to talk to you, as always. Senator Adams Oshomole, Senator representing Edo North, former governor of Edo State, former APC national
Thank you for what you
chairman.
do in the channel. You are very articulate, and I like the way you shoot your questions straight. If you were a soldier, you would be a marksman.
Thank you for the compliment. And I'm happy. I like you, too, for answering questions boldly and not afraid of responding on any question. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, that's it on the program. Thank you so much for coming on the program. I'm Jeffrey Zama. Bye-bye and good night.